Thanks a lot, Linda, and I really appreciate that you have helped us to get off the blocks to start this conversation, which is quite important. So I have a fantastic panel on artisanal and small-scale mining in Africa, and the first speaker will be Rosemary Okla, the co-head of the artisanal small-scale mining team for women in mining Ghana. She's an advocate. She's an advocate for ASM women. She loves to train the ASM women in responsible mining and promoting business diversification for artisanal and small-scale mining women as means of empowering them. So, Rosemary, welcome to this important conversation. But before you come in, let me introduce to you Sophia Takuba, a small-scale gold miner from Sushavane. She's a co-founder and secretary of Sushavane Women Miners Association, an entrepreneur, empowering leader, founder of African Women in Mining Empowerment Trust. So you can see that leadership is part of the conversation, that we have young women that are willing to take that space and inspire others. Then last but not least, we have someone from the policy side, from government. So normally when we talk about artisanal small-scale mining, we don't want echo chambers just to speak amongst ourselves, but also to get it from government. What is their thinking? So that at least we don't just talk to each other, but we find ways to find each other in terms of the burning issues that are confronting the artisanal small-scale mining sector. So Ranga, welcome on board. But for now, let me give the space the next 10 minutes to Rosemary. She's just going to give us sort of like a stimulating conversation that would help us to, after that, to engage for about 10 minutes. Feel free to ask any questions or even share your experience in terms of how you relate to what Rosemary would have shared. So I don't want to waste your time because we started a bit late. So Rosemary Okla, once again, coming.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm speaking on how ASM and small-scale miners are coping under the prolonged COVID-19 situation. The COVID-19 is having both a positive and a negative impact on the ASM miners. Richard Smith said, "For every bad thing in life, there are more good things to tap the balance." The COVID-19 situation has caused many ASM miners who do not want to diversify into other, are now diversifying into other businesses, such as trading in construction materials, farming, hair salons, and catering services, which has now become a side job for them. In Ghana, the ASM women were more affected during the lockdown in 2020. That was last year. There was low production that led to low number of workers, and also there was a low gold price, and in some cases, there weren't buyers to buy the gold. After the lockdown, or after the lift of the lockdown till now, there has been a gradual improvement in the production of the ASM, in the ASM sector. Even that, there's still been some difficulties in acquiring logistics and equipment from outside the country, which has resulted in local manufacturing, which is a plus, because there has been a positive now locally. They are manufacturing some of the equipment in Ghana. The COVID-19 situation also has caused the women to learn how to realize that there are uncertainty in life. And now they are trying to move on to the use of the new form of communication via Zoom and WhatsApp. Deadly COVID-19, coupled with the negative effect of the use of mercury, has made the women, the ASM women, more careful in the use of nose masks and PPEs during working. And also in the form of marketing, the buyers usually use the excuse of the COVID-19 to reduce the price from the native gold sellers so it causes the women to lose more money because now they just use the COVID-19 as an excuse not to buy the gold price at the international rate. In terms of production, getting a rich load is a lack now. The men are reluctant to go down to get the load because they use the COVID-19 as an excuse. So in general, I think the COVID-19 has brought a different facelift to the ASM sector. The women are now health conscious and the use of mercury, and they are looking at even moving off or moving into mercury-free product, which now is a plus. And this, like the women are willing, they themselves are willing to embrace the mercury-free product. And also the manufacturing of the local product and the use of the Zoom and the app. So in all, even though COVID-19 has its bad side, it has brought the good side. It also has a good side, which has helped in also in the form of webinars. Women in mining can have done webinars with the ASM women alongside within the COVID-19 project. So COVID-19 situation, and we still keep on interacting with them using the webinars. So I think, you know, the situation is improving, even though there's a third wave. We are hoping wouldn't be hit so much and there wouldn't be any lockdown in our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rosemary. We are used to that big round of applause, but you can take advantage of the icon where it's called reactions, either to give that reaction that you would want, a thumbs up or a big pam to Rosemary. So we are going to have the next 5 to 10 minutes, a conversation just to reflect on some of the key points that Rosemary shared. For me, in terms of the summary, one thing that's quite a number of things stood out. I will not say them all, but in terms of the positive, we have an issue of diversification. Mining by nature is not sustainable. So COVID has sort of like accelerated that sluggish agenda that has been there to diversify in terms of income earning from the mining sector. Then another positive that I also picked was the issue of local content, how local manufacturers benefiting from the booming ASM sector. Because global trade was disrupted, it forced people to rely on local means. So we are seeing innovation, we are seeing other people getting to be using their entrepreneurship skill to fabricate and provide machinery for artisanal small-scale miners. So those are some of the critical positives I think that I picked. In terms of the negative, the issue of price, but this is the opportunity that we have now as a group. You can raise your hand and give your comments. If you want any clarifications, questions based on what Rosemary has shared, please feel free to do that in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you. In the meantime, I'm not seeing any hands up, so I don't mind. I can, if you don't mind, I can try to nudge you people into a conversation, starting with Paul. How do you relate quickly in terms of the conversation shared by Rosemary in 1 to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Mukasiri. I would like to maybe applaud the Ghana women team on adopting digital solutions when it comes to communication. We have realized that COVID-19 has created a barrier between suppliers and the miners who are in most cases are located in remote areas. And adoption of these digital solutions create a quick link whereby miners and suppliers can communicate. So I would like to applaud them for that. And also, I think with the world changing now to most of these digital solutions, it's high time that miners need to engage more through the webinars, like she have mentioned. And us being technocrats in ASM, it's also good for us to then contribute towards adoption of these digital solutions, and also promoting adoption of technological innovations in ASM. And also, I think last year we're trying to bring in the idea of diversification, whereby we're trying to come up with a mining agriculture model, whereby the mining side fit into the agricultural side, in trying to ensure that the mining communities does not only benefit from the minerals, but also they can use the water resource from the mine to try and safeguard their food sources, to promote food security in this area. So I'm happy to hear that on a positive side, that in Ghana, COVID-19 has pushed for all these things, and I'm happy to hear that. Back to you, Mukasir.
Thanks very much, Paul, for your contributions. I recognize Ranga. In a minute, please, can you react to Rosemary's presentation?
Thank you, Mukasiri. Thank you, Rosemary, for such a. I've just realized that some of the challenges that we faced, or that Ghana went through, are not synonymous. We also went through similar challenges. But what I then took note, which I found interesting, was on the issue of mercury, that the women were mostly acceptable on the usage of mercury. I just want to understand from Rosemary what strategies that they used in terms of bringing on board these women and having that having them substitute all the technologies that they are offering. Thank you.
Thanks, Ranga. Rosemary, you hit the right high notes on advocacy on ASM, and there's interest generated in terms of the attitude change on mercury handling in the health sector as a result of COVID-19, the point that you raised. So if you are listening, kindly respond to that.
Yeah, please, the question was on the mercury. Please, can you repeat it again?
That attitude change on mercury handling for women, how did you achieve it? People are willing to learn the best practice or to relate. Yeah.
Okay. We had a training for some of them in the northern region. We had a project by the World Bank during the COVID period, and then we had to train the women to sensitize them on the effect of, or the impact mercury has as a woman for all the ASM, but especially for the women. And then when most of them we realized that they didn't even know the effect it has on them. So after that realization, after the training, they realized that it wasn't good for them and it wasn't good for their community, because what happens is they take the black sand and smelt it even at home. Some of them smelt it at home. So the effect is, it will affect the people in the house or in the home, and also even in their neighborhood. So after that, they realized that there was no need for the use of the mercury. And I think that helped us. And they also preached, we made them also go on to tell others who weren't part of the training, the effect the mercury has on them. And from that training, the feedback we are getting is they want to go out of the use of, or they don't want to use the mercury again, but alternative use of, alternative ways to extract the gold.
Thank you very much, Rosemary. If you could just marry that with the element of COVID-19, did it change the attitude pertaining to mercury as another health risk, or the two are not related? Just to address that point.
And they are not too related, but the use of nose masks came in. That is where we'll say that brought the, we also trained the women on the COVID protocols. So there was a need for the use of nose masks. And also in the process of using the nose masks is not only to prevent the COVID, but then dust as well in the mining, in production process. Yeah, but then with them, so we linked the COVID-19 to the mercury just as a step, because it made them aware that there's this prevailing situation in the whole world, that's the COVID-19. And then we also made them aware that looking at the situation of the COVID-19, looking at that situation, if we don't handle the mercury well, the whole community will be affected, which would also be another issue for that particular community. So that's how we married the two.
Thanks very much, Rosemary. I think that was a powerful way to end it. We are afraid of COVID, but let's not also be ignorant of the threat that mercury poses. So that's a key message that is coming out from the ASM sector experience in Ghana. So allow me now to shift gears in terms of this conversation in a bit, and welcome Ranga Mazo. Ranga Mazo, I introduced him earlier on, is with Minister of Mines, Zimbabwe. So we want to hear from the government side, how has been government intervening policy-wise to support artisanal small-scale mining under this prolonged COVID challenge. So over to you, Ranga. 10 minutes at most to give your summary of your presentation. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Mkasiri. Good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I'll just quickly do my presentation on the impacts of COVID on the ASM sector and how we see it from the government side. So, I mean, when COVID-19 struck us, no one really knows or really knew what really it was and how to deal with it. And you all agree with me that we thought that no one thought that by this time we'll still be grappling with this pandemic, but here we are. We're still struggling. We're still struggling with it, and it has both positive and negative impacts. So basically, what we did as a ministry, end of last year, we did a ASM sector assessment just to check on the impact of COVID and the expectations from the miners on the government interventions, what they wanted to see government doing. So like I had said earlier after the presentation by Rosemary, that the challenges are almost similar. What people went through, I see that ours is not a unique situation, but it's something which the challenges are across the board. I'll just look at it. Last year, the government then put a 3-week lockdown, 21 days. That was in March last year. And no one was then allowed to move. No business was allowed to operate. It really hit hard. Hit hard on the miners. It really hit hard on the communities. You know, mining is or the small scale mining is mostly informal. People survive on a hand to mouth basis. So it had a negative impact on the livelihoods because people could not go and work. People had to stay indoors, and I mean there was a lot of suffering. So you then find that one of the findings out of the government restrictions that had been put in place to restrict the spread of, or to curtail the spread of COVID, there was an impact of limited movement. Miners could not move from point A to point B. Those who were stuck in the mine could not take their ores for milling, and those who were in the towns or in the cities could not move back to the mines. If you had a breakdown during the 21 days, you could not get specialist services because no one was allowed to move during that time. It had a negative impact. We also then noted that there was also a disrupted supply chain, especially on the space side and the equipment side. And also, government had put in place limited numbers of workers to be on site. I mean, there was the issue of social distancing. Government encouraged social distancing as part of the WHO guidelines. So you find that miners could not work at full throttle, but to limit the numbers of workers per site. Then we had the issue of payment challenges. The sole buyer Fidelity Printers could not then support in terms of paying for the gold that the miners had brought to them, the deliveries that had been brought to them, because they could also not move the monies. Here in Zimbabwe, we use the US dollars, so I mean, moving the cash to Zimbabwe was a challenge for Fidelity, and then it gave rise to payment challenges, which then led to leakages along the way. So you find that all these were issues that arose because of COVID, and they had really a big impact on the mining side. So what then government did, I mean, after the 21 days, there was a review of the restrictions, and fortunately, the mining sector was deemed as an essential service. So miners were then allowed to go back to the mines and work, but adhering to the WHO guidelines. And also the ministry, as a ministry, were then issuing out letters to allow movement of miners from point A to point B, and also allowing mining suppliers to open for business, such that the miners, if they have problems, they can go back and do their normal business. So that was one of the interventions. And also, I think government did quite a lot in terms of awareness of the COVID pandemic on social media, on radios, on TV. Government really tried to push hard in terms of letting people know. But however, even in the findings that we did after the assessment that I spoke of, there was still lack of information as to the testing procedures, what it is really. There was this some sort of, if I may say, resistance to some sort, just to say people were not believing that it is there. So it was one of the major challenges, that people were adamant that that COVID is not there. But well, those were some of the issues that we came through
Not sure if it's on my end, but we seem to be losing you, Ranga. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Mukasiri, and yeah,
Yes.
Ranga, you've just broken up there.
All right.
So
So while we
yeah,
are waiting for Ranga to come back, I have a question from someone using the name Huawei Y 2019. Do you mind first to introduce yourself first before I read out your question, or you can read it to Rosemary as well?
Thank you, Mkasire. Can you hear me?
Yes,
you hear
please
me, everyone?
introduce yourself. Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, talking to Nomuhle Ncube. From
Yes.
Zimbabwe, Bobby Small. Yeah, my question
Hello?
is directed to, can you hear me? My question is directed to Rosemary. My network is poor here. I would
Please
love
proceed, we
Rosemary
can
to
hear you.
share. I would love Rosemary to share the alternative measures of mercury as she has introduced them. I would love you here to introduce the alternative measures to us and also state their effectiveness, because it's not easy for a small scale miner to believe in the alternative measures without knowing the effectiveness of how much gold is going to be recovered.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Manuel, for that. Rosemary, if you can take note of the question, I wanted to find out if Ranga is available for him to conclude this presentation.
Thank you, Mkasiri. I don't know whether
Okay.
you can hear me now.
All right. You have 3 minutes to wrap up your
Okay. With the alternative mercury, I would like my other colleague, Dia, to take that, to address that question. So Dia, please, can you address that question?
Okay, thank you very much. So my name is Dia. I'm a lecturer in the University of Mines and Technology, and I work with Madam Rosemary on this project. I'm a metallurgist. So we talked about the direct smelting, where instead of the small-scale miners using mercury, which is harmful to them due to the Minamata Convention we are working on, by using direct smelting, that is using flaxes to smelt the concentrate they get, instead of applying mercury to it. When we talk about the flaxes, we are looking at the borax, the silica, the flour based on the type of ore they are treating, if they are treating sulfite or oxidized ore. So we have the direct smelting method, which is very effective, because should you use the amalgamation method, that is using your hand to touch the mercury and then smelting it, you are going to produce fumes, okay, which are toxic to the environment and toxic to your health as well. But then if you use a direct smelting, you still get 90% of your recovered gold, and even in higher concentrations, because in this case, you just make the flaxes up with your concentrate, and then you directly put it in the furnace, and then you smelt it. That was one of them. Another point was the retorting, whereby they can still use the mercury, but then they wouldn't have to be in contact with it. Or you can also try the safe amalgamation method. For those who still want to go ahead with the mercury, you can use it in a safe way by putting on your PPs and not getting directly contacted to the mercury. So these are some of the points that we looked at, and some of them are still under still in the lab that we are working on. So far in Ghana, in the southern parts of Ghana, a place called Takwa, some of the mines have already adapted to it, and they're talking about how good it is. So we just need the supply of the flaxes to them, and the flaxes are not expensive. We are getting some locally. You can get borax at a very good price, and you don't need to use a large quantity like the mercury. So the direct smelting is helping in most parts of the country, that is in Ghana. And we try to teach those in the northern region as well about this direct smelting method. So these are all methods that we are bringing up. Okay, Alessa, you are talking about the green gold chemistry. There are other alternative methods, but as you rightly said, you cannot easily convince a small scale miner until he or she sees that they are getting their gold out. So we have the retorting, also we have the direct smelting in place. So these are some of the things that we have in place now. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Rosemary, for the opportunity.
Thank you, dear, for the help.
Thank
I
you,
hope the question has
Rosemary
been
and
answered.
Amadi as
Okay.
well. So Ranga, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to wrap up your presentation, and then we have another 8 minutes to react, any comments, any experience sharing based on the presentation that Ranga is making on how government intervention to support artisanal small-scale mining under prolonged COVID-19. Ranga, over to you. 2 minutes to wrap up your presentation, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mukasiri. I think the last time when I was talking of how we can then emerge stronger from the pandemic. I would just want to highlight from the challenges that we had. We have a vision, the Africa Mining Vision, which really sets out, I mean, what needs to be done. And if you agree with me, if you are going to follow that, some of the challenges that we are facing can be then be overcome. For example, the Africa Mining Vision points out to a mining sector which contributes to a broad-based growth and development of a single African market through upstream linkages into mining, capital goods, consumables, and services industry, as well as a mining sector that harnesses the potential of ASM to stimulate local international entrepreneurship, improve livelihoods, and advance integrated rural, social, and economic development. So, I mean, if we are going to be following the Africa Mining Vision, which we then looked into after the challenges that we went through. I mean, you are looking at the limited or the disruption of the global supply chains. If we are going to focus, or rather, if we focus on a policy environment which then allows for such
Have we lost Ranga again?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Ranga. In 30 seconds, can you just wrap up so that we move on to the question and answer session?
Fine. Then, if we then focus our energies on the tenets of the Africa Mining Vision, we can then solve some of these issues. Then we also have issues to do with domestic resource mobilization. We have gold. The small scale miners contributing more gold to our fidelity printers and refineries. If we could then direct some of the royalties that are paid towards capacitating small scale miners and supporting the ASM industry, we might then be somewhere. Then also, I think there's need to work on the improvements of payment methods to miners, because then it leads to leakages, because we are saying ASM is poverty driven. If one works, they need to be paid for it in the quickest time. So I think it is important that we really work on this, such that we receive we make payments to our miners. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ranga, for that brilliant presentation in terms of the situation prevailing in Zimbabwe from the government perspective, and some of the measures that government adopted or put in place to try to mitigate the impact of COVID. But we are getting some worrying in terms of challenges that are coming. Government failing to, because government is the sole buyer of gold, failing to get cash because of the lockdown. Zimbabwe uses US dollars. The issues of resistance amongst the miners not taking COVID seriously, the impact of lockdowns that were on a high level that immobilized people and which affected livelihoods. Those are some of the issues that we Ranga shared. So I'm going to take this opportunity to open the conversation. Any comments, reactions, questions to Ranga? And when you speak, remember, you just have got 1 minute. Kindly introduce yourself so that we can get to know you. Let's also make use of the chat box to share contacts, to continue conversations beyond this meeting. Many more are in the pipeline. So, and those that cannot, are not comfortable in terms of raising their hands to ask questions, you can make use of the chat box as well. I recognize Sophia, 1 minute. Please proceed to ask your question or comment.
Okay, hello, Mkasiri, can you hear me now?
Go ahead, please.
Hello? Okay, I actually wanted to ask you to let me present so that you can, Ranga can, the questions to Ranga can come later because I'm facing network challenges. So if it's okay, can I present?
You are breaking, Sophia. Your network is unstable. I don't know if it's on my end, but I'm struggling to hear you. Can anyone confirm that Sophia is clear?
Hello?
I think I can hear you, Sophia, but you are breaking up. So her question was if she could try and go ahead with her presentation, and we'll wrap up the questions right at the end, if you're okay with that.
All right, Sophia, you have
So
at
give
most
it
10
a
minutes.
go. See how
that's
she
it, that's
can
it.
manage, because it isn't too good for her, but have a go, I would suggest.
Yes, 10 minutes, Sophia, for you, not more. Please go ahead. Hello, Sophia. I think we have lost Sophia. So in the meantime, we can take this space to give those that want to ask questions, share their own experience in artisanal small-scale mining. You can direct them to Ranga. Rosemary, again, she's still available in case you want to bounce ideas in terms of some of the great presentations, some of the great points that she made in her presentation on the positive developments that have happened as a result of artisanal small-scale mining. Thanks again, Rosemary, for reminding us it's not only doom and gloom, but there are some positives that we also need to pick, and that we can also encourage each other towards making artisanal small-scale mining more sustainable. So colleagues, feel free to ask any questions or comments. Sophia, are you available now? Sophia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now, Mkasiri?
Please proceed. You have got at most 10 minutes.
Okay, I will try to summarize because I'm facing a serious network challenge. I'm at the mine site. So if you can hear me, you can maybe just give me a sign that I am clear, or if you are no longer, you can also give me a sign. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Sophia Takua. Kasiri introduced me, and I will just continue. I'm a small-scale miner in Shabane Midlands province of Zimbabwe, and I also a leader in the of women in the ASM sector. So due to COVID-19, ASM women miners, how ASM women miners are coping, and just in general, how miners are coping, because women and men, they work the same as long as they are in the
Sophia, your internet is pretty unstable. All right, in the meantime, I think there are some questions.
there's been disruption.
So, Sophia, I'm afraid your internet is pretty unstable. Can we just, in the meantime, perhaps, wait until you have got better reception, and then we move on to some questions and answers?
Yeah, and
that's
also,
my suggestion.
Mukasiri, sorry to butt in, but maybe it's so frustrating for you, Sophie, but we'll try to get back to you. But can you maybe, if you can, use the time to fill in a few notes in the chat so we can capture some of what you're trying to say? Over to you, Mukasiri.
Thanks, Linda, for chipping in. So, Sophia, if you are hearing, please try to write some of the key bullet points that you have using the chat box, so that at least we don't lose you altogether. But in case your internet improves, just also alert us so that we give you the space. Now we move to some of the issues that are questions that are being raised. We have got Lucy Tandy. My apologies, joined late. My question, is there a deadline for countries to stop using mercury? I heard Zimbabwe had a deadline of August 2020 to adopt provisions of the Minamata Convention. Where are we now in terms of affecting the convention? So this is not only for Zimbabwe, but we want those that are from different countries. I'm seeing some are from Kenya here. I'm seeing some are from Ghana, and wherever you are from, please feel free to share your experience based on the question that has just been posed by Lucy Tandy. And also take advantage that we still have got Ranga and Rosemary here. So any response? Colleagues, we want to be as conversational as possible.
Hello?
Yes, Rosemary, please go ahead.
Yeah, with mercury, my other colleague is much, that's her specialty. So I think, Dia, can you please help us out?
Hello, Madam Rosemary. Thank you. I think we answered the questions about the mercury already. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dear, the question is about, is there any deadline that is there in terms of when mercury, we should end use of mercury for Ghana?
Yes.
Because, yeah.
I think it has become more of a political discussion. In 2017, we heard about the Minamata Convention, but then as of now, there hasn't been a major deadline. Last month, there was a conference that of Lands and Resources talked about it, but then he didn't give a deadline. He just said they are making provisions, putting in provisions in place so that when the deadline comes, it can be effective. Because there can't be a deadline when there are no alternative and effective ways of dealing with it. So in Ghana, we don't have a deadline, but I know we have about 5 years to make ourselves abreast with the alternative methods before they bring the deadline for the usage of mercury. Thank you.
Okay, Lucy is saying you were faint, but the key message from Dia was that the alternatives to mercury are still being experimented in Ghana, and there is no sustainable solution yet. So it is difficult to the problem, and the solutions are political and they're taking time. So in the meantime, they are using mercury. That's the experience of Ghana. But others that would want to share in terms of their own experience, and also reactions from perhaps Ranga to answer the question that has been posed, that what is government's position now on use of mercury in Zimbabwe, and any others and others that are free to share their experiences, please go ahead and do so. You can show that by raising your hand or making sure you use the chat box for that. Thank you. Ranga, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just want to highlight the government position in terms of the usage of mercury. In last year, in 2020, government ratified the Minamata Convention. So what this basically means is we are now working towards reducing the usage of mercury in terms of gold processing, with the entire objective of then entirely not using mercury. But at this time, mercury is still in use. It's a controlled substance, if I may highlight this. It's not a banned substance, but it's a controlled substance, which means you cannot just import it willy-nilly. It's controlled. You have to go through rigorous processes if you are going to import it. It's a controlled substance, but not banned. It's still in use. So what then we are doing now is now working towards the reduction of mercury into the atmosphere. So by joining the Minamata, we are then going to commit ourselves as government over a period of time as to what we want to achieve in terms of reducing the usage of mercury, and ultimately not use mercury. So currently the position is mercury is still in use. It's a controlled substance, not banned, but by ratifying the Minamata, we are now following the dictates of the convention. But the dictates are saying, or they will say that we have to work on a plan in terms of reduction on the usage of Minamata and the usage of mercury, until we come out ultimately without the usage of mercury. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ranga. I'm seeing from the comments the issue of financing for sustainable financing for artisanal small-scale mining is coming. I know this is directed to Ranga for Zimbabwe, but I want to open it up to get other also country experiences beyond Zimbabwe. How is financing of artisanal small-scale mining done in your countries? Please, colleagues, share your experiences. Welcome, colleagues that I closely work with. I see Raj, I see Alaka. Thanks for coming for joining this important conversation. Any more comments, questions? Colleagues, this is a platform for us to get to know each other. It's also a platform for us to just share our own perspective, experience, any views. If you have got any burning questions in terms of what is affecting your community from the ASM lens, please feel free to share your experiences. Yeah, Lucy, please go ahead.
Hi, I have a question in the chat box. Can you read it out?
The question about ASM of mercury, or it's a new question?
Yes, it's a new question.
Yeah, if it's a new one, please go ahead.
Okay, I'd asked how much, I think this question is directed to Mr. Mazo, to say how much mercury is Zimbabwe using per annum?
Well, thank you, Lucy. I think off the cuff, in terms of there is an assessment that was done in 2019, what we call a national action plan. I think we are talking of about 24 tons thereabout, if my memory serves me well, in terms of that research that was done. That was the average that was said to be used in the SGM sector, around 24 tons, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, thank you.
If you may then allow me
Yes,
Hello?
go ahead, please. Kindly introduce yourself
If you may-
briefly.
Okay, fine. I'm Rangamazo from the Ministry of Mines of Zimbabwe. I just want to respond to the one in terms of financing, and also just share one of the facilities that we have as government. I recognize the issue of financing in terms of affordable loans to the ASM. I mean, it's a problem that we are faced with. But what we have is in government, we have what we call a mining industry loan fund, MILF. It's more of a revolving fund that we offer loans for working capital. We also offer in terms of loan equipment to miners. I would just want to highlight that when this was put in place, then the numbers were still on the low side, but now we are now overwhelmed as government to cater for the whole sector. I need to highlight that. But it's one platform that we then that we use in terms of supporting our small scale miners, so that they've got they can access equipment at a cheaper rate. They can hire out. They can hire the equipment. They can buy. They can also get loans from government to support their mines. So it's one of those interventions. Yes, I will then go ahead to highlight that we are not the little efforts that we are putting in terms of financing, in terms of capacitating our small scale miners. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranga. I'm going to give 1 minute to Shamiso also. I can see your hand is up. In a minute, can you share your comments, questions? Sophia Takuva is now ready to present, so she will come in after Shamiso also. Shamiso, please go ahead. In case Shamiso, you are speaking, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Hello?
Yeah,
Can
please
you hear
go
me?
ahead. Loud and clear.
Okay. I would like to thank Rosemary for the presentation she gave us about mercury. That was our most worry to women because of health hazards. So we are kindly awaiting for a better alternative of mercury. And again, I would like to come to Rangi about the first level lockdown when we were moving around, being requested to produce letters, permission for the letters, permission to go wherever I want to go. But from what I discovered, our mining sector is very, very difficult to get those procedures. The procedures of getting those letters were very, very difficult as compared to agriculture. A miner could easily pump out more money by bribing police to go where she wants or where she likes. I don't know, Rangi, how can we improve that in our mining sector comparing to agriculture sector?
Thanks, Ranga. I think take note of that question. We want to give this space to Sophia. You have now 6 or 8 minutes, Sophia, to give your presentation. If you could do it in 6 minutes, that would be fantastic. Thanks. Please go ahead, Sophia.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Sophia Takuva, a small-scale miner, and I'm a leader of women in mining in the ASM mining sector in Zimbabwe. I will not take things that I wanted to talk about. Have actually been presented by my fellow colleague. I will present on how miners are coping with the COVID-19, the ASM miners. So the COVID-19, they just lockdowns, they have disrupted the production of the miners, and also miners are still striving to grow their operations. And due to the lockdowns, ASM miners have suspended contracts of employees to prevent spreading the virus and to prevent and to also follow the customs, and as well as the impossibilities of performing maintenance tasks.
Sophia, sorry, we were hoping that your network could be better, and I think it's still working. Can you please
since
make use of the chat
mining
box just
operations
to
need
share some
more
key points that
workforce.
you have?
Hello, can you
Sophia,
hear
if
me?
you can hear, if you are hearing me, please, your network is still bad. We're hoping that it could have improved. So make use of the chat box to share some of the points that you wanted to present, and we can engage via chat box. Ranga, you can respond to the question that had come pertaining to, sorry. The last question that was there, I think I lost the track. If Linda can help me in terms of the question, or if Ranga took note of the question.
Thank you, Mkasiri. I think it was noted. I think it was an issue of travel letters to miners. Well, I'm not sure.
I think one of the questions, Ranga, was, sorry to interrupt. One of the questions I can see, but I don't know what happened to the chat. Directed to you, what are the key requirements to access the Mining Industry Fund?
Okay, fine. I've taken note of that question, but let's. So basically, what you just have to do is to approach our ministry offices, and with your inspection, with your mining certificate and an inspection certificate, that information is sufficient for us to process your travel documents. It's not that complicated. It might just not happen whilst you're waiting, but we can then process with that information. We can always process your application. Then we also have the issue of what are the key requirements to access the mining industry fund. So basically, if you are having your mining license or your claim certificates, and you have your inspection certificates, that in itself gives you access to the mining industry loan fund, or the equipment that you want to get. Then a panel then analyzes your application, whether the information or the equipment that you have applied for is the one which is required for the project that you are working on. So basically, if you have your claim certificate and the inspection certificates, I mean, you can access. Mukasiri, back to you.
Thanks, Ranga. My internet is also acting up, so in case I'm not up, in case I lose network, Linda or Diana, please chip in. Any more questions, comments that we would want to share? We have about 10 minutes before we conclude this conversation.
Could I ask a question, if I might? Rosemary, I'd be really interested to know a bit more about what you're doing in Ghana to provide land for miners. I know that there's been a law or a provision to set aside some of the leases for ASM. How's that going? If she's still here.
Yeah. Now what the government is doing is community mining, liaising with the Minerals Commission and Geological Survey to identify potential areas within a mining community or concessions, and then the Geological Survey would do the prospecting to find out where the ore is, and then the Minerals Commission will block that area and then will give it out to the community, or will license it to the community as community mining. So that is what currently the government is trying to do.
And how is that working out for people?
It hasn't been long. So on the ground, there have been some places that have started, but it is not, I wouldn't say we have had much success to it, but it looks positive. But I wouldn't be, because I haven't been to the field. I would love to say things that I have visited the field and gotten feedback from what is happening on the ground. But I'm talking from the perspective of Geological Survey and Minerals Commission, a meeting I'm part of, and that is on the table. We are looking at, the area has been demarcated. Geological Survey is trying to go to the field to do the geological work to identify the blockout areas that are potential for it to be leased for the community to mine. But I haven't heard that a community, we've handed the mining, the area to a community. I haven't heard that, but I'll find out.
Thanks very much, Linda, for the questions, and to Rosemary for responding. The question that I had forgotten earlier on that was posed was on movement. It appears that there is a discriminatory tendencies when it comes to application of lockdown measures. Artisanal small-scale miners, the bar of compliance, the paperwork, the procedure is quite cumbersome when compared to artisanal small-scale mining. What is needed to simplify the process and the more or less follow what is happening, or the treatment that is given to the agricultural sector? That is for you, Ranga, to respond. But also, I see we have people from Ghana. If we have someone from Kenya or any other country, we want to hear your experiences. We have 6 minutes to close this conversation, so it would be good to be as diverse as possible in terms of the experience sharing. Anyone need to take the shot before Ranga comes in?
For example, Kenya. Who is from Kenya? We need a perspective. Maybe Joyce, are you from Kenya? I'm not sure.
I'm from Kenya.
Yes, Alaka, can you share any perspectives from Kenya or from East Africa? It could be Uganda, Rwanda, or apart from Kenya.
Yeah, so my name is Alaka. Just a quick introduction. My name is Alaka Lugonzo. I am the current extractive strategist at Oxfam in Kenya. But before that, I used to do a lot of work around artisanal and small scale mining. I've worked in the women in gemstones, and I've worked with a bit of the women who are doing gold mining. So I can say in Kenya, what the main issue is, and maybe just a small background, we just had a new mining act, and I'm saying it's new because it came in 2016. So we have had quite a lot of teething problems with the act, because I mean, with a new regulation comes a lot of issues around moving from an informal state to a formal state. So there've been very many teething problems in terms of the fact that, I mean, nature abhors a vacuum. So for the last couple of hundred of years, ASM has been operating in a more informal sort of sector. So everything that could go wrong, and I'm putting it in quotes, and everything that could go, and I'm saying it in quotes, anything that could happen in the sector that was illegal was happening in the sector. So even if you're talking about issues around the use of mercury, our conversations are also very young. And very nascent, because most of the miners in some of those areas, like in the Western Kenya, they are still using the mercury. Yes, there have been small programs that have started along the way, but I can tell you for a fact, there's still a long way. And there's still a long way that we need to come. And I think our conversations also need to be centered around what other countries have been doing. And that's why myself and my colleague who's here on the call, she's also Raj, we have decided to join some of these conversations so that we can start pushing those agendas. I must admit that from an outside looking inside, the sector does need a lot of capacity. We are still, even though mercury, people are starting to be aware of the issues and the dangers around it, we are still using it. Excessively, and also those programs that, you know, even government getting that push from government, getting that push from civil society to actually start using alternatives to mercury. Those are not programs that people have started the conversations, but they are not programs that have completely taken off. So I think for us as Oxfam, who are now just getting into the ASM sector, we have a 5-year project. I think Mkasiri had mentioned something like that. So we have a project that's definitely going to touch in those areas for around, of course, artisanal and small scale mining, going to touch in some areas where we're going to work with gold. So I think for us is to continue building our capacity, and secondly, tap from what other countries have started doing. And this would be a good opportunity to also see how we can be able to build our networks in whatever we're doing. But I can tell you for now, the conversations are minimal, and they're minimal because, of course, of the nature of the sector. As I mentioned before, we are an informal sector moving into formalization. So give us another maybe 2-3 years for us to jump into these conversations, actively. But we're hoping as Oxfam in Kenya, we can be able to jump on and do some of those things. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alaka, for that great overview of ASM in Kenya. There is a question here that also I would want to broaden up in terms of experience. It looks like the application of mining title, mineral rights, mining certificates was disrupted by lockdown due to restricted movement. What are your experiences? Again, Ranga, take note of this question so that as I give you the final round your final remarks, you can address that question as well. Anyone need to share in terms of experience? I would say Ghana first. Rosemary, as you close, just respond. How has been the process of applying for a mining title in the SM sector in the renewal? It's been like under COVID-19.
I would like my other colleague to respond, and then I'll back up.
Thank you.
Dia.
Please, Dia. You are a bit faint, so if you could speak a bit up.
Please, can you hear me?
Yeah, please proceed, but it appears you are faint. Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of getting these, initially we had the long process of doing that, especially with the COVID. It became a hustle, but now the Minister of Lands and Natural Resource has made mention of bringing in the online application for these stuff. So now we are looking at moving everything online, whereby the applicants can just apply with just the phone and then a good internet. That is what we are planning to do in Ghana as of now.
Thank you very much.
Because we had a very long process and the COVID was not helpful.
Thanks, dear. I'm quite sure that is clear that artisanal miners are benefiting maybe from the online process of applying a mining title or renewing. We want to know quickly, we are now closing. Are they, in terms of impact, are they harnessing technology? Is it not patent? Some, I understand in Kenya, the computerized mining cadastral system also acted as a barrier when it comes to access to mining title. But I'm sure we cannot exhaust this conversation. Many more meetings are going to come where we are going to focus on some of the problems that are affecting artisanal small-scale miners, but not only problems, but looking at practice, what is working in one country or in one community, like the positive vibe we got from Rosemary, for instance, the positive aspects that are happening in the ASM sector as a result of COVID-19. So Ranga, I'm going to give you at least a minute to give your final remarks, Rosemary as well, and then we close shop.
Thank you, Mukasiri. I think the COVID-19 has left us. I mean, has actually showed us that there are things that we lag behind, especially on the technological aspect, and especially on the applications like what is in the chat, the questions that are coming through in the chat box. I think we are working flat out in terms of getting the cadastral system working, the computerized mining title system to come on board, and we are hoping that by the end of this year, we should be having it up and running. We got support from Central Treasury to finance all the activities that are required. So we're just hoping that by the end of the year, we should be having the cadastre up and running, so that we can reduce some of these problems that we are having. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ranga. Your final remark in a minute, Rosemary.
Oh, okay. With the COVID, even though it's affecting everybody and it's deadly, I think my joy is for the miners, especially the ASM women, diversifying into other business is what I think I'm so happy about, because it gives them another opportunity to back up their business in case the ASM is no more. You can't mine because at some point the mineral will get finished and you have other resource or other form of business to rely on. So that is what I think the COVID has brought diversification for the ASM.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone. Is to start with the presenters, Ranga Mazo, Rosemary Okla. I think that was quite fantastic. Very important observation points, experiences that have been shared, which there's a lot of takeaways, something to learn in terms of how to make artisanal small-scale mining more sustainable. I also want to thank Sophia as well. She tried very much to make a presentation, but unfortunately we are also grappling with the challenges of COVID-19, where we are supposed to go online, but sometimes the supporting infrastructure is not available as well to allow us to have that smooth flowing conversation. So we bear with you, Sophia. But lastly, let me also just share with you some news. I think Linda did that when she started. Blessing, who was supposed to be facilitating this conversation, Blessing Ongwe, lost his father 2 days ago, so she could not be with us now, but I had to come in just as a replacement to make sure that this conversation continue as planned. And to everyone else that has been part of this conversation, we acknowledge that you have taken time from your busy schedule, especially in these demanding times where there are a lot of meetings, to listen and to contribute to this Delve Exchange program. Over to you, Linda, on my end. I think, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mukasiri, for excellent facilitation. I think everyone would agree. Beautifully done, quite complex dynamics with the power going on and off and difficult. You did that extremely well and very graciously. I think I've heard some really interesting stories tonight. We're going to keep the chat, but can I ask the presenters, particularly Sophia, who unfortunately we were dying to hear from you, but we couldn't. Can you send us your notes so we can share these in the chat, in the WhatsApp group? Can you do that? Put them, send them to the WhatsApp group and we'll carefully curate. You know, as I said in the beginning, we are looking for people to enter the challenge competition. And I'll be giving you details of that soon.